Welcome to Travel Stories with your hosts, Tom Kim and Trevor Mountcastle. This week, we discuss Festivus. We bring back the old tradition that we had on the Saberossi observation deck. And to do that, we are joined by the Milenomics original, Sam Simon. Welcome, Sam.
Hey, thanks, everybody. And happy Festivus, Tom. Happy Festivus, Trevor.
Happy Festivus. Welcome,
Happy
Sam.
Festivus. We'd sort of adopted this tradition with Joe Chung, as I covered on a previous episode. He was unable to join us, but we wanted to try to continue the tradition of this non-commercial holiday celebration. It was depicted in Seinfeld. I think it was season 9, episode 10, something to that effect. Not that I keep that on the tip of my brain for all times. But
the strike episode, right?
Yes, the strike episode. Exactly. It historically occurs on December 23rd. It includes a dinner. I think we're skipping the dinner part, unfortunately, and an unadorned aluminum Festivus pole. I don't know if TK has his Festivus pole nearby or not.
I hear it there. Nice. Very good, Tom. Yeah.
There we go. The core of Festivus is 3 pieces. It's airing of grievances, it's Feats of Strength, and Festivus Miracles. And I think we can all appreciate that we have each of those as we go through any particular year. Sam, do you want to say any words before we start airing our grievances?
You know, I want to thank both of you guys for the shows you've been putting out and for this episode, this Festivus episode. You were more of a cheerleader for this to happen than maybe even I was. And I felt like a little bit without Joe here, it's not Festivus. And in the true spirit of Festivus, I feel like if we just keep telling him about it, he'll eventually have to show up.
Peer pressure.
I've come around. Yeah, right? Like it's like George's dad being like, George, we're having Festivus. You need to come. And Joe, we're having Festivus. You need to come next year. So 52 weeks early, we're going to tell him he's coming next year.
There we go. We can get it on the calendar nice and early to deconflict.
That's right.
And that'll be next year's Festivus Miracle, right?
That's true.
If we do get Joe on here, that would be a Festivus Miracle.
It's literally the same as the show. He just keeps avoiding it.
I will say Trevor is probably more responsible for the cheerleading here than I am. I was like, what is Festivus again? Like I kind of barely knew what it was about, and I really needed to re-educate myself. But I'm also excited for this episode. I think we've got some good content to share with everybody.
That's true. This is your first Festivus, right, Tom?
This is my first Festivus. Yeah, I have not celebrated. Definitely not on a podcast. So this is consider me a Festivus virgin.
Yeah, I think I came on once, right, Trevor?
Yes, you were the one that brought the Festivus pole.
Oh,
I did.
Year.
I brought the clock that year too on the wall.
Oh,
in a bag. I came really ready that time. This time I'm not nearly as ready. If anybody's listening right now, they're probably like, if they're expecting, high expectations here, it's Festivus. They need to really lower those expectations.
Yeah, recalibrate, people. Recalibrate.
Yeah.
Recalibrate for a joyous but entertaining episode here.
Are we going to jump right into it, or what are we going to do, guys? You guys, you're not having the meal. So
let's do it.
We're skipping the meal, so let's jump to airing of grievances. For this one, what we try to do is everyone gets 2. Because everything that goes through the year, there's a lot of grievances to be had. We were chatting before offline, and there was almost a grievance every month. In some months, there were 3 grievances. There's plenty to choose from. We've got one for airlines and one airlines or loyalty programs. So it could be hotels, airlines, and then another one towards a bank. So Sam, as the guest, we thought we'd let you kick us off on your first grievance.
All right. I'm going general. I'm going as general as I can here. It's a grievance against all programs that do no-knock devaluations. And I'm sure, I'm sure I'm not the only person that's not a fan of these. But there's just another one the other day. Avios just all of a sudden are like, oh yeah, sorry, here's a haircut across the top, and it's not the first or last that have happened this year. But it just, I said, that's too much. It's too much for me. I love that program. I understand that the price of things goes up over time. I don't have a problem with that. But what I have a problem with, guys, and you tell me if you're on the same page, is when all of a sudden it just happens overnight. And there's no notice, there's no headwind, there's no like, hey, you guys want to get some bookings in before we raise the price. Here's the date you need to get the booking in by. Even maybe if they said you could fly by this date, I'd be fine with that too. But literally, you just go to sleep and you wake up. And I think, Trevor, you had like a a devaluation occur in real time to you at one point, didn't you?
I did, and that was actually going to be my grievance. So I'll have to start thinking really hard.
No, yeah. I mean, I would love to hear you recount that because that is a legitimate grievance.
Yeah, I remember. So that it was an Alaska Airlines no notice devaluation of Emirates. Emirates redemptions back in the day where it was 80,000 points to go first class to Dubai or Middle East, and then 100,000 to anywhere else in the world that Alaska had on their chart. And I was literally searching one evening, and I see a couple of interesting awards, some that shouldn't have even existed. Like I could find 3 seats to Melbourne, I should say, and as I'm trying to book it, it just disappears, and then nothing's there, and then I end up calling Alaska, and I'm talking to an agent who's literally like, I see space, and every time I try to click it, it just disappears. Like it was as if they were pulling all these flights in real time.
Wow.
By the way, I think we need to start a new drinking game. You need to drink a glass of champagne every time Trevor says Melbourne.
Well, in that episode where you guys would have been on the floor that last time you guys were talking Australia with Joe in New Zealand because, man, I mean, it was nonstop.
I was listening to Miles to Memories, by the way. I'm sorry we're going to go on a slight tangent here, but I think they brought it up again, I think, in a recent episode. So I've just been really enjoying that.
They keep on bringing it up.
Joe didn't go there, right? He went to Sydney.
No.
That's the greatest part of that episode, guys. Can I just say, as a consumer of your show, that Melbourne has been name checked like 52 times in an episode where Joe did not go there. I like it.
Yes, I think he found every possible way to engineer that coming up, and now
he inceptioned Trevor into saying it so many times.
Well, and he's apparently making me do it too because somehow I've been incepted into bringing it up again in the Festivus episode. But by the way, the Lufthansa first class, that's gone. That's last year, 2024. It's drinking whenever Trevor says Melbourne. Okay, anyway, continue.
Gosh, and the irony of the matter was I was really looking forward to going back there.
I've only been to the airport.
Going back where, Trevor?
We almost were going back to Melbourne for Christmas.
There it is.
Okay, take a sip here.
All right, so Trevor, I think that's a nice segue into your first. Are we going to go like airline, bank?
Yeah, let's do that. My grievance was specific to Alaska again. Having just talked about the Emirates experience, they're a program that's close to my heart and also very far from my heart at the same time because there's so many sweet spots. There are many fewer now than there were even just a few months ago, unfortunately. And it was sort of funny for me as I was thinking about this episode. I was thinking about the fact that our first episode was actually flying Japan Airlines from New York to Tokyo. And Alaska did that no notice devaluation where they just overnight popped the redemption from 70K to 100,000 points for Japan Airlines first class. For me, that was, one of those things where it was very attractive as it was. And 100,000, it's not horrible, but it's that no notice devaluation. And it's just, continuing to just another chink in the armor that is the Alaska Airlines mileage plan program.
Yeah. I mean, I can pile on here too. One of my grievances was, again, I'm lamenting, the leaving with some of the award charts here, changing next year. Specifically, the 50K for business class. That's going to be a big loss, I think.
Yeah. So what were you guys like most looking forward to booking with that Alaska at 50K?
Well, I'd love to just get back on Cathay business class award ticket, but if one does show up, I kind of want to get one last redemption in.
Yeah, I heard a guy on the Slack said he had tickets to Vietnam on Cathay, and I was like, how did he do that? I want to know more because I mean, I haven't seen anything in a long time.
No, I think I recently saw something about using Asia Miles for Cathay, but right. I haven't seen partner awards in quite some time.
Oh, maybe that's why he did it. Yeah.
I think they had first class on the the JFK Hong Kong that they finally reopened, I guess, or they're adding it back right onto that route.
That's a long flight, man.
It is.
We love it. We flew Dulles to Hong Kong in the first week of that short-lived flight. Yep. That really felt like a long flight on the A350-1000. in
Yep.
business.
Yep. I had booked. I think I had booked Boston to Hong Kong at one point, but unfortunately, we decided not to take that trip. We kind of changed our plans around, so I never ended up getting that flight. So it's been a bit. It's been a while since I've been able to fly Cathay.
And the way that they're wet leasing their aircraft, I mean, I think I just saw earlier this week that that another airline is getting some Cathay aircraft. You've got Air New Zealand is wet leasing a bunch of their, or at least a couple of their 777s, I think.
Well, that's your best shot of getting on Cathay right there, Tom. Right? Yeah.
Well, yeah, maybe the airline, but I don't think I'm going to get Cathay service. I don't think I'm going to be getting any egg tarts on Air New Zealand
Or Hong Kong milk tea.
or milk tea, exactly. But yeah, part of it is just this nostalgia at this point because it's been so many years now. Pre-COVID, I mean, Cathay was kind of like one of those things that your go-to for a lot of times. For people who've been in this hobby, I think 2019, I did so much Cathay flying with that first class mistake fare and some of the other things. It's like you have a lost family member that you haven't visited in a while.
Well, I think it's interesting too because we represent very different booking patterns, I would say. Tom, a lot of times you're finding that one seat, and
Yes.
I really was so interested in your discussion of like getting home from some of your Africa travels, Ethiopian and some of those places where you just were like, I just need to find one seat and make it work and kind of thread the needle. And then Trevor, you're coming into this new pattern where you're going to need 3 seats. And I can remember that time, and that is a significant jump from 2 to 3, but you were in that period of needing 2 seats for quite a while. And now I'm kind of on the other end of that, needing 4 seats everywhere. And I think that's not going to be lost on our conversation here at Festivus, but we're all playing a little different game with maybe like the end result wanting to be travel. But I wish you all the best of luck, but I think it's getting harder and harder as you get to be more and more seats. But Tom, I think if any one of us can do it, you can do it. Yeah.
Yep. It doesn't. What is it? It does dawn on me how much more challenging it is. When you just need 1 seat versus 3 or 4. I mean, it's a whole nother layer of complexity and some cases luck and skill. So
yeah.
And not only that, every so often we have my mother-in-law travel with us as well. So we go from 3 to 4 seats. And going from that, getting that 4th seat can sometimes be a completely different game than just to get 3 seats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have avoided trying to split cabin.
We've never done it either. Yeah,
my wife and I have done it when it was just us, but I just don't know that we're going to be in a position to be able to split cabin for quite some time. Just you've got zone defense. We sort of try to balance everything on board.
Yep. I get it.
So I think we've kind of we've certainly hammered all of our grievances at Alaska Airlines. And
wow, yeah, have we?
Talk about the star of the show so far.
Tom, did you get a specific call out there on the grievance of yours? I don't want to lose it. I don't know if you specifically got all your anger out on it because this is Festivus.
Oh, I think I piled on enough. I think Alaska got enough of our wrath. I think to this time. And hey, at least on this one, at least on the sweet spots, and specifically the 50K to Asia on Cathay. That's something where at least you may have some capability to. It's not a no-knock devaluation, right? We've got some time, so I have to give them a little bit of credit on that one.
A little, but we can still be surly about it. Yeah, we're not going to love them.
I'm still a little surly,
And then what do you guys take on? I know we're not here to talk about Hawaiian, but what's your take on the merger?
Oh wow, yeah, it's interesting how we have the 49th and the 50 state airline now.
Yeah, I just wonder how that works because they said they're going to operate as if 2 different airlines. I think they said.
I mean, maybe for a little while they will, but
I think they have to say that in order to not get great pushback from Hawaiian and from Hawaii.
That's what they told all the Virgin American people. Oh yeah, don't worry, we're going to treat you great.
Can you name another airline that merged with another airline and then kept operating the old airline? No, right?
Well, I mean, Europe.
Yeah, Europe has some.
You've got the Air France KLM group. They stayed separate, and you've got the whole Lufthansa group that is just a mishmash of I don't know. Yeah, it's a ridiculous number of airlines. So I guess in Europe, people are big on keeping their national identity. I don't know if that translates to states.
Yeah, I just don't know how Hawaiian. Like I said, I just don't know how Hawaiian and Alaska merge without. I mean, I feel like the people of Hawaii are going to have a big challenge if they lose that kind of
identity,
not national identity, but the identity of having that airline. They used to have 2.
That's right.
to overwater. They lost Aloha, during the Great Slowdown, was it? Sometime in the 2000s, I think. And it's just, I think that's going to be something that's going to hit.
I mean, I think this kind of saves that essential air service of the inner islands, because I think Hawaiian by itself, what do you call it, unmerged with somebody else as a lone entity, they probably didn't have that long to exist, I think, without something major happening, right? Because they have a lot of headwinds,
Sure.
at this point, between like Southwest and everybody. So I think in a way, this is probably a good thing for the people of Hawaii, only because they're at least going to probably keep an option for them, whether no matter what it's going to be called, they'll at least have that option of an inter island carrier that really has a focus on Hawaii.
Yeah, I do wonder that now that you mentioned Southwest, how much of this can be directly tied to their serving the islands and then serving inter-island as well, because they kind of just came in and did some really, really ridiculous fire sales. And I don't know how much money Hawaiian has versus Southwest, but I wonder if that had anything to do with it. So
I can't imagine it didn't, because it's funny, because I for a while there I was thinking, wow, Hawaiian must be making money hand over fist, because they essentially had a monopoly on all the inter island stuff, right?
And the cargo, they made a lot on cargo, tons,
a lot of
flying these wide bodies,
and then they decided to expand on the wide bodies and the mainland flying and the international flying, and to me, it just was interesting. I just thought it was a lot of expansion in a short period of time.
Yeah.
So I think what we should probably do is get back on track on grievances, and those were a really interesting tangent. So can you talk a little bit about what your bank grievance is?
I'm going with Bank of America. And first of all, I don't think it's America's Bank. No one asked if they could use our name, and they're just in there using that name as if they speak for all of us, right, Tom? And I don't think that's fair. Second, they have what I would say is the absolute worst fraud department. I got a brand new premium rewards elite card. I went and bought some groceries. It was fine. The very next charge, this card is locked up tighter than Fort Knox. I mean, I can't stand them right now. I love that they're giving me all kinds of points and that the card is churnable. And don't get me wrong on that, but the way that they work, it just, the way that I want them to work and the way that they work are two completely different sides of the coin.
The B team fraud department of banks, huh? Is
the B team, maybe even the D team.
Oh, maybe even oh wow, okay.
They are un-American. That's what I'll say.
Wow,
Bank of Un-America.
Bank of Un-America. All right. Well, that's a good one for the banks. Trevor, do you have a bank grievance?
I do, and this might almost be self-inflicted. I had a long history of not enjoying and not doing well with U.S. Bank. In fact, I did a guest post. I did a guest post for frequent flyer book, so Gideon, just on how U.S. Bank is just not the most rewarding bank. Just feel, I just get so overwhelmed with this U.S. Bank.
Let it out.
So I started getting into checking account bonuses again this year. I had taken a little bit of a break, and they had a $500 checking bonus, and first they say, "Oh, well, you didn't have the right code associated with it." I had the right code. I didn't take the screenshot though. That was
not our first bank bonus. Yeah, right, Trevor. You're no rookie in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I should have had that screenshot. That was one area where I just kind of kicked myself, and so I went back and forth with them quite some time, and finally I just gave up. I mean, I was leaving $3,000 into in that bank account for probably 4 months, and I finally just said, you know what? Fine, I'm going to give up here. But yeah, U.S. Bank, you are my grievance this year. TK, did you?
I think it's more of a lamentation. It's more of a feeling of loss. So I'm in kind of that grieving more than grievance mode, I guess. And that's just simply that my MGM stays are now bonvoyed. And I did love that lovely ability to credit your MGM stays, whether they be those, $23 Excalibur stays, to my Hyatt status. I miss that. I did that many times. And sometimes even, with some of the, the comp stays would even, you could get that as well. So between those, I had a lot of Hyatt stays, they were definitely making it very easy to maintain globalist. And I just see the bar. My cheese has been moved, is what I think is how I feel about it.
Oh yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I ended up overshooting my Hyatt stays this year because I had front loaded just because I was concerned that it was gonna, the shoe was gonna drop on that. Obviously it didn't drop as early as I thought it was going to, but it's going to be a big hit. And I think that plus Hyatt's changes to this whole guest of honor and things are going to make 2024 really an interesting year for Hyatt loyalists.
So are you guys going to requalify, or have you requalified?
Oh gosh, I think I'm at 70 or 80 nights this year.
I just made 60. I did it on purpose. I wanted to have as much time as I can have to redeem my category 1 through 7 certificate, because I have no real plans for it at this point.
Talk about a minor grievance there. They give you 6 months to use that Cat 7, and you can't even use it at all the hotels in the portfolio because now they have Cat 8.
Sounds like we have another grievance.
And then you save it. We talk about this all the time. You save it. You have a stay where maybe you could use it, but you go, oh, it's kind of not the best possible use for it. And then you end up moving things around. And then at the very end of that 6 months, you're scrambling and you're like, all right, well, I'm going to end up down the street.
This was one of the first years where I took the alternative approach. We were flying home from Malaysia. We had just a 10 or 12 hour overnight in Abu Dhabi. And we could stay at, a bunch of different hotels, used of FHR credit and stuff like that. And I just burned it on the Park Hyatt Abu Dhabi.
That's a feat of strength right there, Trevor. That is,
I don't know if I'd call it a feat of strength.
You used it though, right? You got use out of it.
Yeah. I mean, most years for me, it ends up being a stay at the Park Hyatt DC.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
but it's not. It's not the ideal. This was, hey, I can put something to use. It's not the perfect answer, but it was one of those cases where I didn't need the free parking that you have to use points on to get. You win some, you lose some. I'm going to take that as a win, but I don't know if I'd call it a feat of strength.
It's a production for use. Not that this is like that kind of a holiday, but
Well, you may inspired me because if we're ready to move on to feats of strength, I'm actually recording this from the Waldorf Astoria Arizona Biltmore Hotel. And this was all part of a trip where I planned, again, to use some of my Hilton certs that were expiring. And then on the back of that stay, I added some stays at the Phoenician and the Canyon Suites to use my brand new Marriott certs, which I was, again, fumbling to use at the end of this year. But as the new ones just arrived with my anniversaries, I went ahead and used them immediately and used them over here in Scottsdale. So I think my feat of strength is utilizing my Marriott certs within the first month of issuance.
I think that's like the new thing we should get everybody on board with.
I agree. I think right? Don't hoard them. Don't wait for that maximize. Just the immediate. If you find something at least partially good, just go ahead and use them. I think because otherwise you're just scrambling at the end. It's usually suboptimal anyway.
Yeah, and there's always another way. It's not the only way to get a room that you want.
Exactly.
When you put yourself in a corner, then it becomes the only way to get that room because use it or lose it.
Yep. Settle for good enough, guys. Settle for good enough.
That's a Festivus right there. I mean, that is the definition of Festivus, isn't it? Settle for good enough. I love it.
I love that. That's perfect, and that's a great segue to get us to the rest of the feats of strength.
Trevor, you want to go next?
Yeah. So being a new father, this past year has been one where we've traveled at a tempo that is greater than any other time in my life, and we've been able to do that travel primarily because of one small little program of our neighbors to the north, Aeroplan. Courtesy of Air Canada. Although actually, Aeroplan is still separate, right? Did they merge?
No, they bought it, right?
They did. No, I think Air Canada bought it back.
I thought that. Yeah. So our friends to the north with Aeroplan, where they have that, just you burn 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 points for the lap infant, rather than having to pay 10 or 20% of whatever the going ticket fare is. If we were
taking me back, Trevor, you're taking me back.
I can only imagine what you've gone through with that. But 10 or 20% versus 3,000 points is just an incredible difference, and it's allowed us to take our daughter to places that I didn't think we'd be able to get to, and allowed us to enjoy and unwind and be more present for her and for each other. in those places. I mean, we've been to, we've hit every continent except Australia at this point.
I think that's a feat of strength.
And if you were in Australia, what city would you go to?
In reality, I'd probably go to Sydney.
Oh, sorry, listeners. Next
Fail.
time.
I think the feat of strength is the amount of traveling you've done in the last year with your daughter and and with your wife. Just you've been on a tear. As your friend, I've witnessed this. It's kind of crazy. You've been really milking that Air Canada stuff, by the way.
Oh yeah, and now I feel like I'm in the hangover portion where now I need the third seat and it's much more costly and we're slowing down on our travel.
Yeah.
How about you, Sam?
Oh, that's got to be my trip this summer to Japan. I'm trying to recreate that trip. It was 4 of us in business, both directions, and we spent 2 weeks there. And everybody, even my 9-year-old, has been asking, when are we going to go back to Japan? And, I probably have done, 50, maybe 100 searches. And I can't get lightning to strike twice on that one. And granted, at the time that I booked it, it was not nearly as difficult as the current landscape is. It was like, all right, I'm going to book 4 seats and then going to wait a couple weeks and then I'm going to book 4 more seats. Or I think maybe I booked 3 and then I waited and another one opened up or something like that. It was not what we are going through right now, especially from Los Angeles. I don't know what's going on with Los Angeles. I don't like to reposition. We haven't even had the conversation in the family of repositioning, but it's almost certain I'm going to have to reposition. It's just the hardest airport in the world, it seems like right now, to get out of is Los Angeles. So I did it. It was amazing that it worked.
And that is incredible. And I loved following along on that trip and hearing about it. You've opened my eyes to parts of Japan that wasn't even on my radar. But I would say that you're in a unique position where I think Japan Airlines, at least used to, they may still fly out of, San Diego, and you've got a couple of other airports that are within an hour or two flight, or a few hours drive, which I think you don't see in a lot of other places. For TK and I on the East Coast, best we can do is there's a single flight that I've never seen a ward space on out of Dulles, I think, is that ANA flight, or we're going up to New York.
Oh, you mean you're not able to book your ANA with Virgin? I mean, like, it's everybody's doing it, Trevor. It's so easy.
Everybody does say it. I'd like to know.
I've never seen it. I don't know.
We're just not influencers. I don't think we're
Right.
We're not Insta people, so I think that's our problem.
What drives me nuts? Because I know what they're doing. Now, this is not the show, but we're airing some grievances anyway. I know what they're doing, right? They're just picking anywhere that they can get on an ANA flight. They're flying like Sydney to Tokyo. And then they're going like, I flew it. Here it is.
Yep,
and then then they flew Tokyo back home on like coach on AA or something. Yeah, and they don't tell you about that part of the trip.
Yeah. I will say though, I am jealous of being in LA with all of those Trans-Pacific routes. Even though maybe they may not work to get to Japan, but I mean, at least you have a lot of options. Between all the carriers.
You're right.
Right. Dulles, we've got Trans-Pacific. We've got like you can count them on your fingers. Less than or one hand. Sorry, you count them on one hand, pretty much. Where mind you, it's probably a little easier for us to make it over to Europe, but that's probably the trade off.
That's the trade off. That is, and we've got that low cost carrier, Zip Air.
Yeah,
and that one's really interesting to me. But they won't sell their lie flat seat to anyone under 6.
What?
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's like
that is the weirdest restriction.
I think it's got the airbag, or I don't know what it is, and the seatbelt or whatever it is. Because I looked
concerns.
at it and I thought, that might be a good one because it's deeply discounted. With 2 little ones, the service aspect of any cabin is really lost on me. I just want to sleep and I want my kids to sleep, and I could have done it in that, but yeah, I couldn't get them to sell me a ticket for my smallest. So a couple years out maybe, but yeah, that was my feat of strength. How about you, Tom?
Well, my feat of strength again, and I think again, I had the advantage of, for the most part, my travel has been solo for most of 2023, and I think my feat of strength is just finding award trips for my various cruises and other things, just kind of up to the minute. And strangely enough, I've been able to find, just being patient and having nerves of steel, the exact right trips, the exact right dates, the exact right, places I need to be. In some cases, improving on what I had booked long ago with many, many iterations. I think that's been my feat of strength, is just probably the nerves of steel to be able to get the right award at the right time.
And ultimately ending up with the unicorn of unicorns, Qantas First.
Yeah, I wasn't going to mention that because we actually have an episode about that next. But yes, I managed to get the unicorn Qantas First, Los Angeles to Sydney.
Have you flown it or not yet?
No, I flew it in November.
So I remember you had said like you had seats to Australia, but you ended up not using them or something. Am I remembering that correctly?
Oh my God, it's. I don't know if you want to relitigate this on this thing because this episode's probably not long enough. But
we can go all night. It's Festivus Miracle.
Oh my God, but that's the one where I routed through Vietnam.
I remember now. Yeah, you went through Vietnam, and then you had some kind of low cost ticket.
Well, that was quite the saga, because you had Bamboo Airways, that ended their flights to Australia, and then I found this wonderful AA flight that I was supposed to fly on 777 in American's first class product from LA to Sydney, and they call me the morning of the flight to tell me, hey, can you maybe take a later flight? We could put you on this Qantas A380 in first instead of our American AA. I mean, would that be okay? And could we maybe give you $500 to do that for us? And I'm like, let me think about this for a second. Yes, please. Yes. So that was I don't know if that's more of a feat of strength or a Festivus miracle. But we may be jumping ahead, but that was pretty good to be paid to basically move from an AA first class on a 777 to a Qantas first class on a 380. Yeah, that was pretty good. That was a pretty good miracle, I think.
Yeah. So what happened? What was that? There's some kind of issue?
They oversold. They oversold first. And this is funny. This is we were wondering. I was telling Trevor, we were wondering if it has anything to do with this AA contract negotiation thing they did with the pilots. Where now the pilots
for an extra
have to
rest seat.
Yes, for first rest seat, because I don't know who's overbooking AA first, but it happened. They do a lot of weird stuff. So hey, I'm not complaining. I enjoyed.
Take it.
Yep. Yeah. I was not planning on flying Qantas first.
Interesting. I can't wait for that episode to drop.
Definitely is a fun one. We sort of went out of cycle for that one, but definitely more to talk on that in another episode.
Yep.
So let's transition to the bank feats of strength. Obviously, this year has been just an incredible banner year for earning miles and points from credit cards with signups looking good. You saw Chase increasing some of those ink cards, and of course some of the other banks, including American Express. What was your feat of strength on the bank side this year, Sam?
I'm torn between two. I really like Takis. I don't know. Are you guys in? I know it's not really a bank, but it is a bank. Is it I don't know, but I'm a fan of it. Are you using it, either of you?
I literally have the Takis envelope on my desk. I have not opened it yet.
Look at that. Opening the mail right here. We can do an episode of that. Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
Actually, I have opened it. I just haven't activated the card.
I think I'm not going to go with that. I'm going to go with something that I would never have thought I would have said last year, or even 2 years ago, that would come out of my mouth. But it's a Citi Business AA card. It's that Citi has a card that earns 2x AA miles, and that there's a situation where using it actually even makes sense. I think that's kind of amazing to me. And it's Citi. They actually got something like, no, I'm not going to say they got it right, because it definitely is accidental because it's Citi. That's what makes it such a feat of strength. It's like a miracle feat of strength where they just accidentally do everything right. It seems it's such a weird bank, but I just love the card. And it's been like, I wake up in the morning, it's the first card I use. And so I think that's the feat of strength right there.
That's incredible. I slept on that one. I'm gonna have to take another look at it. It's American airline miles are just about as hard as they can be to get. Well, perhaps not as hard as Korean Sky Pesos or you've been wanting to call. They feel like Sky Pesos. Sky Pass, yes.
Sky Pass.
I mean, but it's but Korean Sky Pass isn't going to get me to Melbourne like American.
There it is.
Oh!
So that's a great feat of strength, Sam, and a great reminder for us all, I think.
Yeah. And I'm not a fan of Citi, but I guess I am a fan of Citi. I mean, we're probably going to talk more about it later in the show too. But
We're very conflicted about all of these banks and airlines today, aren't we? We love them, but we hate them.
Though,
It's
right?
true.
If we just loved them, it wouldn't be Festivus.
I guess so.
If we just hated them, it wouldn't be Festivus. But we love them and we hate them.
We love them and we hate them.
Well, I think I have one for both of us. American Express.
I yield my minutes to the honorable gentleman from Maryland.
American Express. Writ large, they have just been giving away points with so many of these non-lifetime language. Just some incredible sign-up offers. I mean, you see 150,000 points fairly frequently. I think we even saw as much as 190,000 points in some targeted offers. Have you guys talked about the employee cards, or should we skip that part on the?
We've talked about those plenty. I mean, I got tons of employees, and recently they all got a platinum card in the mail as well, accidentally. So,
oops.
Yeah,
Christmas came early for them.
Your mailman must have back issues now.
It was so wasteful. It was ridiculous, And I even asked when I upgraded this business gold to business platinum, I asked, hey, I have employee cards. Make sure that they don't get converted to these $350 platinum cards. No, don't worry. I'm taking care of all of that, the rep says. And then the next day I log in and there's thousands of dollars of charges. And, fortunately I hadn't done 99. I had only done, 6 or something like that, or 8, or maybe I did 2 rounds of 5. I think that's what it was. And so, there's just plenty of charges on there. But if I had done 99, I think Robert calculated it out. It would have been a $35,000 wake up call.
Wow.
Of platinum cards, unless there's some kind of limit on how many they charge you for. But yeah, the employee offers, I mean, it was hard for me to not pick American Express. I have to say, I looked and saw that you picked it, Trevor, and I kind of said, I'm not going to pile onto that, but that's the bank of the year for sure. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. The bank of the year. I almost wonder if they would have charged you for 90 and given you the last 9 free. Platinum cards.
They'd have given me a financial review, probably. Yeah.
They probably would have.
Yeah.
That probably would have been the case.
So are you Roman numeral, Trevor? No, Trevor the 19th.
The 19th. No. I think I've got an M in there. So what would that be? 50 or is?
Oh my!
Right.
Is M 50?
We really beefed up on our Roman numerals in the last few years. Right. L is 50, isn't it? M is 1,000. You got 1,000.
No. Then no. I'm like an LVI.
Yeah.
LVI. Yes, exactly.
Trevor Levy, who?
You're up into the Super Bowls.
Yeah, he is.
He's up into the Super Bowls in terms of.
There you go. Hey, and American Express is the Super Bowl of banks at this point.
I mean, you combine that with Aeroplan. No wonder you're flying all over the world, Trevor. Yeah.
Yeah. I won't say how many miles I've burned this year.
No need. Yeah. Feat of Strength, right there.
Exactly. Yeah. So definitely,
right,
highlighting American Express and City actually doing something right for once as our feats of strength.
I'm ready to move to Festivus Miracles, though, if you want to move to that.
Let's do it. That's my favorite one, Festivus Miracles.
Yes. My miracle, as far as, I kind of gave you one earlier. Again, my being called up to basically get $500 flight credit to move to Qantas, that was a miracle. But my other one was just all the surprise elite statuses from 2023. That's my Festivus Miracle.
Through matches or through...
matches and just, all that, like, for instance, all the stuff that came out of the Delta devaluation, that they had to walk back, right? I have million miler and Delta and for 2024 now I'm gold, which I'm not complaining about. And of course I matched the complimentary silver that I had to Alaska. That became an AS Alaska MVP, which they granted, even though I didn't really qualify for that silver. I hardly flew Delta at all this year. I had 2 status matches for Spirit and Frontier. I did both of the ultra low cost carriers, which I've enjoyed both carriers. Actually, I just did a $39 flight from BWI to Phoenix this week to be out here in the Scottsdale area.
I love that. Now, did you have to pay for those status matches? I mean, they're low cost carriers.
I did have to pay some for the status matches, but I offset with some airline incidentals from my Ritz-Carlton card for one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one, at least I don't think I got anything out of it, but the actual flight that I purchased, I was able to offset that with some Amex, one of the Amex offers for Frontier. And to do that, I actually ended up buying an extra seat. So I had 3 of us flying. It was me and my parents. But we ended up just booking an extra middle seat just to give ourselves poor man's big front seat, and it worked out great. The plane was completely full. There were no other empty seats except for ours, I think, and it was a very nice experience.
I mean, I gotta say, it's a feat of strength when you can fly Spirit or Frontier and then talk in the same breath about Qantas First. That is amazing, Tom, and I appreciate. It's not lost on me at all as a consumer of travel, right? I mean that you're about the journey, but you're also about the destination, and whatever makes sense to get you there, that's what it is. And I think that speaks to your character as someone who's going to do what it takes to get where you want to go, and I like that.
That's right. And I value that travel. Whether it's on an American A321T or on a Frontier A380. Both have their place. Both have benefits, and I can still find it pleasant, even if it's not in the most luxurious or Instagrammable way.
Yeah,
I kind of shudder at a Frontier A380 though.
Oh my God! Did I say A380? I meant A320. I think I meant A320. Sorry, I got too many Airbuses
on an A380 in Frontier.
Oh yeah, but I would totally fly a Frontier A380. I would just have to book a lot of extra seats.
We talk a lot about Morgan Housel, the author, and he talks about this. But like 100 years ago, even if you're flying on Spirit or Frontier, you're flying in a way that is inconceivable even to the richest person in the world 100 years ago.
So true.
Absolutely.
And so it's really important, I think, to stay grounded on that. Like, this is still the miracle of air travel. In a yellow bus with wings or not, it's still amazing to me. Every time I get up in the air, it's like, I'm just doing this. I'm in a tube shooting through the sky, the miracle of it all. And so I think that's another Festivus miracle. But yeah, I love that we had this conversation. It was great.
And
and I'm enjoying the 70-degree weather in Phoenix in December. So
well, and that's the thing. Yeah, maybe 30 years ago that wouldn't be terribly uncommon, right? A hop to Phoenix. The fact that we can go to sleep in New York or in the skies over New York and wake up in Singapore is just absolutely incredible. Yeah. I mean that's something that I didn't dream of when I was a kid.
No, same. Yeah. And maybe, now our kids are just going to be like, that's their norm. And I love that. I mean, I think that's, showing them the world is part of it. So,
it truly is.
Yeah.
It truly is.
Yeah. I think my Festivus miracle this year has been that Vacasa and Wyndham, even with a slight devaluation, still exists. I think last year I bought on points.com something like 250,000 Wyndham points.
That's crazy.
And used them because you could just turn around. Wow. It was like you could buy them for like 1.2 cents and you could turn around and use them for 3 cents. It made no sense. It didn't make any sense to me that they were continuing this program where this currency was for sale for so much less than what it's worth. And it's not like a sliding scale. I mean, it is a sliding scale, but even at the lowest low end redemption, you're going to get that value out of it. But then making it even better, I end up with their credit card, their business earning credit card that earns 8x on fuel. And so this year, I probably earned twice as many points as I bought last year in the program. And all of that has fueled so many wonderful stays for my family and I. And like I said, even though it did have a devaluation and it was, go back to the beginning of this show, it was a no knock, no notice devaluation. The program still, I'm looking at like my next stay and I'm like, I could still book that with the current status that the program is in. I could still book the stay that I have after this for the same amount of points as was before this devaluation. Their devaluation was really unique, I think.
A lot of richness still there in that program, it sounds like, and I can't help but like hear the word arbitrage in my head. As you're saying that, like some sort of like Wall Street trader or something. You can't believe the difference between these two currencies.
Yeah, because you could talk to someone and say like, look, you want to go to Hawaii, right? Yeah, I do. I want to go to Hawaii. You got any tips? Well, like, here's a tip. And it sounds insane. You're like, sign up for a program, the Wyndham program, right? And then I want you to go to points.com. I want you to buy about $900 worth of Wyndham points. And that's going to get you like $2,600 worth of rooms at, a condo in Hawaii. And they look at you like, nah, that's got to be a scam. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. It does. It sounds
very scammy.
Sounds super
very
scammy. It sounds super, super scammy. And so I think that's maybe holding people back from it. I don't know, Tom, but I'm here to say it is a miracle and it's great. Yeah.
Well, and it's still the fact that you can't do that online, right? You still have to call somebody, right?
You do have to call someone. Yeah.
I that is one of the biggest impediments, I think, in travel. Like people just hate to call people. They don't want to pick up the phone, and I think a lot of the sweet spots that remain in our world are because you have to pick up the phone. That's the one big thing that keeps them safe.
That's a great point. I hadn't thought of that, and I think you're right. I think that does help. Because you can't automate it. You can't go in there. You can't be like, I'm going to be a broker. I'm going to start grabbing all the rooms. I'm going to set up a site that that books you into my bookings and all that nonsense. Yeah.
It's a coincidence. I feel like it's not a coincidence that Cathay becomes so much harder, to book through, or the availability dried up around the time that you could actually automate some of that and you didn't have to call.
And when you think about the fact that people came out of the pandemic with just piles and piles of points. I mean, people that might not have been doing that sort of an approach probably, started seeing it as actually viable, with revenge travel. Not only did they have a lot of points, have more points, but they had people that were probably more than willing to spend money for those premium cabins. But Sam, I just have to say, I love the fact that you brought that up because, you bring a completely different approach to travel than I do, right? I haven't stayed in an Airbnb. I don't typically stay in those condos, or I can barely spell Vacasa. Like I'm aware of it, but I don't know that I've looked at it closely enough to even consider staying at one, other than saying in my head, if we ever make it back to Hawaii with those Korean SkyPass miles, that's
connecting through to Melbourne.
There you go. We'll have to.
Wait. That was you saying.
It doesn't count. I know.
I know. It didn't count that.
We'll have to try that one though. I think that's the thing that I love about the community. Really is that we all play our games just a little bit differently. We all have some of the basics, right? There are hotels that you'll still stay at, but you're looking further afield than I am, whereas I'm kind of going a little bit more all in. My miracle, my Festivus miracle, is actually booking right into an overwater villa at the St. Regis Maldives for 68,000 points a night.
That episode was great, by the way, because I think you were like an unsure Maldives tourist before that trip, and then after that trip, you were just like, I can't wait to go back. So it's fun. It was fun to experience it through your trip report.
I was just so surprised about the experience. I mean, the fact that from the moment that I got that the boat pulled up, because we stayed at the St. Regis, or we stayed at the Sheraton, which is just a boat ride from the airport, and so you take the boat back to the airport, and literally we see our airport butler. And there was another couple that was on there with us, and they had their own separate airport butler. And these guys are literally right on the pier. And it was just supreme service from that moment, pretty much until we got to customs at the airport when we left. The caliber of care and every little detail. Now, Tom had told me that, hey, that's the expectation everywhere. I went on to stay at a Four Seasons, which we'll talk about in a future episode. And the St. Regis is still the best hotel that I've ever stayed at in the Maldives.
That's pretty high praise that St. Regis beat out Four Seasons. I will say it's pretty amazing to watch the conversion of the fanboy.
Yes, that's a great way of putting it there, Tom.
From the Maldives doubter to the Maldives, what is it, acolyte, that you are now.
I'd go even further. Crazy. I was a Maldives skeptic.
Very much so. Very much so.
Truly. I mean, that was probably one of the first times that I really had some time to really relax and disconnect. I mean, it helps you're on an island in the middle of the Indian Ocean, but I mean, they just took all of the friction out of the experience, and I just can't say enough about it.
It's a Festivus miracle. You're like Scrooge waking up on Christmas morning. A goose for everyone.
A Maldivian trip for everyone.
68,000 point goose for everyone. Yeah.
Well, and that's probably, there's more to that though, right? If you look at a lot of the hotels, most of them you can book into like a beach or an on-island villa. and then you have to pay to get that overwater. To be able to have just booked right into an overwater villa with its own pool, that to me was probably a very big difference maker.
That is true. I mean, I haven't had that benefit. I mean, whenever I've done award redemptions in the Maldives, there's always been an upcharge to be able to get in that overwater. So, you know, there's been a couple of those trips where I've done the non-overwater villa, which I still enjoy, but I do understand how that is part of the Maldives experience, is having that overwater villa.
And I don't think I would have enjoyed myself as much if I was just on the beach or something to that effect. Just the difference of being able to sit out on the lanai or porch, whatever we call it. It was just absolutely incredible. Any final Festivus miracles we want to share?
I've got one to close us out, maybe, guys. You tell me. This is the first Festivus show where we've had like a community place for people to share their thoughts and their miracles and their grievances and their feats of strength. And so while I really enjoyed talking with you guys and having this Festivus show, and I'm so glad again that we did this, I think that this Festivus will be the best Festivus ever, because we will hear, I hope, from so many people their feats of strength and their grievances and their Festivus miracles. And so I'm looking forward to this show continuing the conversation and really like the discussion happening after the fact. So I think that this is not the end of our Festivus show. This is the beginning of our Festivus show.
I love it.
It's a really good perspective. That sounds, I mean, I think this is going to trigger or it's going to inspire a lot of discussion, I think, hopefully.
Might be both.
Yeah, might be, guys, right?
Hopefully the inspire, not the trigger.
No, I think that's an absolutely great idea, Sam. And that community is just an incredible group of folks that I think we all learn from on a regular basis. And so incorporating, having everybody share their grievances, their miracles, their feats of strength, I think is just such an incredibly great idea.
Yeah. Should we close it out, guys? Happy Festivus.
Happy Festivus.
Happy Festivus.